As a former U.S. ambassador, I'd like to share with you some thoughts on the role of the United States. In the last decade, the role of the United States has declined dramatically as decisions were made to intervene militarily in areas of the world where we had not traditionally intervened, or intervened alone rather than with our allies. Since the end of the Cold War, where I was the deputy U.S. ambassador in East Berlin, and the confrontation between communism and capitalism ended, the United States has sought to find that elusive peace dividend where, without the conflict between the Soviet Union and the West, that there would be fewer wars, that peace would break out. But we all know that didn't happen. We watched the Balkans explode into violence, into genocide. We watched the Gulf War before that. We watched the Rwanda genocide. We watched many, many conflicts that have taken away the stability and the hope for peace that we had all sought. So what happened to the role of the United States? Once the leader of the West, and now finding itself without the Soviet Union as the main object of conflict, what is our role? We were actually moving throughout the 1990s without much direction, as the world was trying to find where to go, and then we were struck on 9/11. That resulted in a national security strategy that touted the military role of the United States and preemption. And the world standing of the United States began to be eroded, and the ability to do other things in economics and in global climate change and the International Criminal Court all were undermined. We're now at a new beginning with President Obama, who has turned to make his motto, a very, very important motto, is what you could call a community of responsible partners. This idea of being responsible and shared responsibility has often been discussed in the past, where the United States was a provider of security and the others were consumers. It's no longer the case. If you look at Afghanistan, the United States is there in a large way, but it calls on others to participate in fighting terrorism, because, as we all know, the 9/11 terrorists, one of them came from Hamburg, Germany. They were well educated. They were in the United States working their evil while we slept. And now we have a new president who recognizes that in order to address the issues of terrorism, it isn't simply about poor people. It isn't simply about madrasa. It's about how we approach the world. In a very, very important speech in Cairo, the president laid out, particularly in the Middle East conflict, a responsibility that he said he would take up for the United States, to be engaged and to seek an agreement, to seek understanding and to end that conflict. But he also turned on the Arab community and said that presenting a plan, as was done twice by the Arabs, to end the conflict between the Palestinians and the Israelis is not enough. It has to be actively implemented. He turned to the Israelis and he said, you have two of responsibility, and one of the critical elements of responsibility is to stop the settlement building so that peace talks can begin. This is a new way for a president to talk, and it's not just in the Middle East. He talks the same way when he talks to the Europeans. He talks the same way when he talks to the Chinese. It is a way to define who we as Americans are. We are partners. We're partners in responsibility. We don't take all of the responsibility and all of the accountability, but we will take our share, and we will turn to others to take their share. This is the great debate about where the future of the American foreign policy will go. The president is now planning to send a participant in talks with the Iranians on nuclear weapons program, nuclear energy and nuclear weapons development in Iran, subject of sanctions of the United Nations. Something we're prepared to do is to engage, but not just engage, but to participate, to argue, to seek answers, and to make it more difficult for those who wish to avoid responsibility and avoid accountability to do so. That's the way that diplomacy and this administration will move to make it possible to make the world a little bit safer and a future more secure.